Welcome to Department of Distance and Continuing Education, University of Delhi. Master of Business Administration, Semester 1. Core Course MBA FT 6101, Organizational Behavior. Lesson 9, Decision Making. 9.1, Learning Objectives. After learning this lesson, students will be able to explain the process of decision making. Describe the individual and group decision making. Explain the concept of rational decision making and contrast it with bounded rationality. Finally, understand the role of ethics in decision making. 9.2 Introduction. Decisions are an essential part of one's life, both personally and professionally. Decision making is an integral part of a managerial job. Decisions are required at all the levels of management, but it's particularly imperative to managers. It plays an important role and is a key to success in management. An organization's success is largely driven by its superb decisions and its execution. Decision making is the essence of management because various functions of management cannot be performed since it all requires decisions. 9.3 Meaning and definitions of decision making. A decision is a choice. It is at the core of planning, in which managers have to take decision to select a most suitable or appropriate course of action from several alternative courses to be adopted to achieve objectives. Decision-making process takes place only when managers have two or more options or alternatives. Decision-making is a tough and conscious process of making objective decisions which is acceptable by those who could execute it and is beneficial for the organization. A manager may make following decisions. Number 1, planning. Some questions under planning are: what are the organization's long-term objectives? What strategies will best achieve those objectives? What should be the organization's short-term objectives? How difficult should individual goals be? Number 2, organizing. Some questions under organizing are: how many employees should report directly to the supervisor? How much centralization should be there in the organization? How should jobs be planned? When should the organization put into operation a different structure? 3. Leading. Some questions under leading are: how to handle employees who appear to be low in motivation? What is the most effective leadership style in a given situation? How will a specific change affect human productivity? Lastly, when is the right time to intervene in a conflict? Number 4, controlling. Some questions under controlling are: what activities in the organization need to be controlled? How should those activities be controlled? When is the performance deviation significant? What type of management information system should the organization have? Definitions of decision making. Decision making has been defined by several management scholars. Some of the definitions are given below. According to Stoner, Freeman and Gilbert, decision making is the process of identifying to deal with a specific problem or to take advantage of an opportunity. R. Terry defines decision making as the selection of one behavior alternative from two or more possible alternatives. Decision making involves the selection of a course of action from among two or more possible alternatives in order to arrive at a solution for a given problem. According to Allen, management decision making is the work of a manager performs to arrive at conclusion and judgment. According to Schull, Delberg and Cummings, a conscious and human process involving both individual and social phenomena based on factual and value premises, which concludes with the choice of one behavioral activity from among one or more alternatives with the intention of moving towards a desired state of affairs. Kreitner defines it as decision making is a process of identifying and choosing an alternative course of action in a manner appropriate to the demand of the situation. In other words, at every stage of managing, the manager faces the challenge of making correct, qualitative, and effective decision to get the best out of the situation. Managerial decisions are formally directed towards making the organization functional entity, preserving its identity and maintaining continuity in its working life. Managers at all levels make decisions such as top-level executives take decisions on major issues and matters that are directly concerned with the survival, profitability, and growth of the organization. For handling the matters arising day-to-day operation, lower level managers are granted authority to decide upon them. Managers at all areas of organizations make decisions regarding production, distribution, finance, purchase, personnel, research and development, etc. Characteristics. Decision making is an integral part of planning. Number 2. It aims at choosing an appropriate course of action by weighting and weeding out several available alternatives. Number 3. It involves the judgment and discretion of the decision maker. Number 4. It is an activity with a purpose. Number 5. Decisions are made to solve problems, resolve crises and conflicts. Lastly, it is all-pervasive. 9.3.1 Types of decisions. Each day involves a series of decisions ranging from minor to significant. Managers in different organizations encounter unique situations and problems. Depending upon nature of the problem, decisions can be of following types. Number 1. Program decisions. Program decisions are made with regard to routine and recurring problems and require the application of a predetermined set of procedures, techniques, and decision rules. As the problem arises, the prescribed procedure is applied and a decision is made. Decision rules permit busy managers to make routine decisions quickly without going through a comprehensive problem-solving procedure. It encourages lower-level managers to share responsibility in terms of guiding and instructing workers for day-to-day activities. Help to resolve the grievance of the workers for program decisions. It allows higher-level managers to concentrate more on important non-program decisions. So the structured problems have to be first defined. The program decision may be of the following 3 types. Number 1. Procedure. A procedure is a series of sequential steps used to respond to a structured problem. For example, selection procedure of an employee. Number 2. Rule. A rule is an explicit statement that tells what can or cannot be done. For example, the rules of the roads, rules observed at petrol pump, rules about lateness and absenteeism permit supervisors to make disciplinary decisions rapidly and fairly. Finally, policy. It is a guiding principle for making a decision. It establishes general parameters for a decision maker. It may be general policy and specific policy. Policies typically contain an ambiguous term that leaves interpretation on the decision maker. Some of the examples of policy statements may be: nobody would accept any gift from the outsiders except token gift. The customer always comes first and should always be satisfied. Promotion from within wherever possible. Second types of decision is retake. Second type of decision is non-programmed decisions. As manager move up the organizational hierarchy, that is upper level, the problems they confront become more unstructured, that are new and unusual, for which information is ambiguous or incomplete. Non-programmed decisions are unique and non-recurring, that require a custom-made solution. That is why upper level managers delegate routine decisions to their subordinates so that they can deal with more difficult issues. Some of the examples of non-programmed problems are: top management lays down the objective. Number 2, top management prepares strategic plans and policies for the enterprise. Number 3, issues necessary instruction for preparation of department budget, procedures, schedules, etc. Number 4, controls and coordinates the activity of all the departments. Table shows difference between programmed and non-programmed decisions. Number 1, programmed decisions are usually structured, whereas non-programmed decisions are unstructured. Number 2, programmed decisions are suitable for lower levels, whereas non-programmed decisions are for upper levels. Number 3, programmed decisions are usually repetitive and of routine nature, whereas non-programmed decisions are usually new and unusual. Number 4, from information perspective, programmed decisions are readily available, whereas non-programmed decisions are ambiguous or incomplete. Number 5, the goal of programmed decision is clear and specific, whereas goals of non-programmed decisions are usually vague. Number 6, talking about time frame for solution, programmed decisions take lesser time as compared to non-programmed decision, which usually take relatively long time frame. Lastly, the solution of programmed decisions relies on procedures, rules and policies, whereas for non-programmed decision, judgment and creativity is more suitable. Third type of decision is strategic decisions. Strategy is a deliberate search for a plan of action that will develop a business competitive advantage and compound it. The search is an iterative process that begins with recognition of where you are and what you have now. The difference between you and your competitors are the basis of your advantage. Strategic decisions are usually made by top-level management, which are important and critical for the survival, success and profitability of the organization. Every organization has to make decisions throughout the day that will impact the outcome of the organization. Decisions can be simple, like deciding on what to wear or whether to organize a meeting or not. However, strategic decisions that impact the direction of the organization are harder to make and are often the most important. The examples of strategic decisions are the selections of a product and process, making capacity planning, selecting location of plant, switching to new technology, taking over other organization, and strategic alliances, etc. The main characteristics of strategic decisions are that once they are taken, it is neither desirable nor feasible to withdraw them and is based on risk. Fourth type of decision is operational decisions. Mere formulation of strategic decisions are not the guarantee of success of any organization unless until such decisions are implemented by making many other operational and tactical decisions such as production planning, quality control, cost control, inventory control, etc. These decisions are concerned with routine and repetitive matters to implementations of strategic decisions. That's why the authority for making tactical or operational decisions is vested in lower level management. The difference between strategic and operational decisions are as follows. Strategic decisions are long-term decisions, whereas operational decisions are not frequently taken. Number 2, strategic decisions are considered where the future planning is concerned, whereas operational decisions are medium period based decisions. Number 3, strategic decisions is taken in accordance with organizational mission and vision, whereas operational decisions are taken in accordance with strategy and administrative decision. Lastly, strategic decisions deal with organizational growth, whereas operational decisions are related to production and factory growth. Fifth type of decision is individual decision and group decision. Individual decision. In a practical situation, a person is different from others in respect of the way of thinking. Some people are logical and rational and they process information, while others are intuitive and creative and perceive things as a whole. That's why different people use different decision making styles in the organization, such as number 1, the analytical style. This style has a much higher tolerance for ambiguity and best characterized as careful decision makers with the ability to adapt to or cope with novel and unexpected situations. Second is the conceptual styles. This style has a low tolerance for ambiguity and seeks rationality. They are efficient and logical, requires minimum information. Number 3, the directive style. It makes decisions fast and they focus on the short run. Lastly, the behavioral style. This style has a strong concern with well-being of the subordinates, and usually in this style suggestions from others are sought. Individuals have a tendency to think and question before performing, which is fruitful in analyzing and forecasting of an individual's behavior. Advantages of individual decision making. First, individuals generally make prompt decisions. Second, individual decision making saves time, money, and energy. In other words, it is a cost effective. Lastly, individuals are responsible and accountable for their own decisions. They have no excuse for their bad acts and performance. Disadvantages of individual decision making. Number 1, an individual uses own intuition and may be biased. Number 2, individual decision making is proved more fruitful and productive in very small business organization like sole proprietorship or in family matters. Lastly, lack of consensus in decision making. Second type is group decision making. It is generally believed that two heads are better than one. In group decision, the final authority to take decision is vested in the group itself rather than in an individual. A group decision is one in which more than two people are participating, deliberating, and developing an amicable solution to the problem. If group is diverse, better decisions may be made because different group members may have diverse ideas based on their background and experience. To deal with the problems, the manager is delegated with enough authority and within the extent and scope of its decisions are made, both on important as well as less important matters. Whatever the power and authority they have, they can exercise it only through meetings in which they make decisions unanimously or by majority votes. Such decision is generally taken in executive body or in various committees formed for the purpose of deciding on various matters at the lower level of the organization. Sometimes the superior involves subordinates to get their cooperation and involvement in decision making, in which subordinates may be of more concern with the objective of their acceptance. Group decisions may also be in the following form. Number 1. Group participation in decision making, where the superior shares authority of decision making by involving subordinates. Number 2. Group decision making, where the members or subordinates may share the authority of decision making with the chief executive. Lastly, workers' participation in management, where the superior and subordinates may share the authority of decision making with the workers. Advantages of group decisions. Number 1. Creates synergy. It is found when output is more than the inputs, which means whole is greater than the sum of its parts. As group also creates synergy effect in the quality and productive decision because two or more members are involved in deliberation and amicable solution of the problem that may increase or improve the results. Number 2. Sharing of information. In group decisions, the member of the group not only sit together around the table for making decision, but also they contribute fruitful information and expertise which increases understanding, clarity and facilitates movement towards a collective decision. Third, team spirit. Members involved in group decision making represent cooperation, trust, respect, and develop a team spirit to get maximum contribution from them. Disadvantages of group decisions. The flip side of the group decision making are as follows. Number 1. Diffusion of responsibility. Group members are not themselves so much responsible and accountable, which affects the quality of decision making adversely. Everyone is responsible for a decision, which might mean no one is responsible. They do not exhibit a sense of responsibility. Number 2. Reduce efficiency. Ordinate delay in decision making is also marked in a group decisions. Because of long discussions, diverse opinions of members, and procedural technicalities, it sometimes reduces the effectiveness of the decision making process. Encourages indecisiveness. If the least competent member dominates the group decision, it impedes the efforts of the most competent ones. Lastly, group also suffers from groupthink. 9.3.2 Techniques of individual and group decision making. The use of techniques improves the efficiency of decision making as well as the quality of the decisions made by the managers. These techniques are as under. Individual decision making technique. There are 6 decision making styles of an individual. Every individual is not only different in nature but also their approach of decision making differs and depends on different situations. First, deep deliberation. In this style, the person spends excessive time and attention on weighing all possibilities before deciding on any one possibility. This style is appropriate when an issue is of great importance, such as family problem, career choice, or serious relationship issue. Impulsive decisions. An impulsive behavior is when one acts quickly with no thought to the consequences. An impulsive person is commonly described as hot-headed, rash, unpredictable, and unstable. It is simply a person's reaction to situation in front of others. Such decisions is often intuitive ones. It is inappropriate in the cases related to academic choice, career choice, and relationship, etc. Escape. In this style, decision making is avoided by giving temporary solution and escaping from the situation. Escape would be an appropriate style if one has to face reality in attempting to avoid it. Next is compliance. Compliance refers to the act of obeying an order, rule, or request. It is an integral part of decision making. In this style, the decision is made by someone else and the individual has to obey the decision because of they are not comfortable to take decisions due to lack of sufficient information. Next is safe playing. Safe playing refers as taking least risky decision. In this style, the person chooses the option that has the least amount of risk. It is best option particularly when high risk is involved in decision making. Last is procrastination. It means voluntarily delaying or postponing actions. Despite understanding the negative consequences of unnecessary delay, people defer the actions. In this style, the decision is simply delayed, which means refusing to make a decision as long that the options that were once available to them no more remain available. It is not an effective decision making style, particularly when there is urgency or a timeline. Often delaying decision makes the ultimate decision more difficult. It can be seen as irrational behavior. The above matrix shows that individual decision behavior depends upon a combination of tolerance for ambiguity and way of thinking. On the x-axis, we have the way of thinking, and on the y-axis, we have tolerance for ambiguity. If the tolerance level is high and way of thinking is rational, then individual decision style will remain analytical. Likewise, if the tolerance level is low and way of thinking is rational, individual decision level will be directive. If the tolerance level is high and way of thinking is intuitive, a decision style will be conceptual, and if the tolerance level is low and way of thinking is intuitive, the decision style will be behavioral. Group decision making techniques. Number 1, brainstorming. Brainstorming is a process in which creative thinking is encouraged for developing creative solutions to problems by small group of managers. Generally, one of them is given the role of leader of the group who throws light on the various aspects of the problem and explains its natures to the other members. This technique does not offer a ready-made solution to the problem, rather aims to generate possible alternative solutions and leads to evaluation for selecting the best one. Rules of brainstorming. All the members sit together and start discussing the problems with generation of creative ideas with tentative solution as a member of free association, one by one, without any interruption by others. Number 2, once each one point of view on the problems is recorded in black and white to make every member familiar with the ideas generated. Again, they are given an opportunity to make improvements upon them. Later on, each member, one by one, is allowed to give suggestions on the various ideas so generated with the purpose to improve upon these ideas. In the subsequent session, ideas so generated are reviewed and alternatives evaluated for selecting a suitable one. Second, Delphi technique. This is the technique in which a small group of specialized experts are formed to express their opinion on the problems and its solution. The opinion expressed by each expert independently is not made known to the others because anonymity is desired. The expert does not know on whose response what new questions has been framed. In this technique, the organization, after collecting the responses of experts to solve the problems, the opinions of experts are consolidated and summarized by the group leader and sent back to the experts for further analysis until a unanimous decision come out to solve the problems. The Delphi technique involves the following steps. Number 1, under this technique, the organization prepares questionnaires in 2 or more sets on the various aspects of the problems after analyzing the sets of responded questionnaire. Number 2, the first questionnaire is sent to experts to seek their responses independently, and after getting the responses of the experts, the group leader compiles and analyzes the responses. Number 3, again the second new set of questionnaire is sent to the experts and they are asked to respond. After receiving the response, it is analyzed. Number 4, if any area remains untouched or untouched adequately, a third questionnaire may be designed and sent, and the responses are again compiled and analyzed. The set process repeated unless until a unanimity develop on each aspect of the problem. Third, nominal group technique. Under this technique, a group of individuals is formed to address a particular problem. It resembles the brainstorming technique but is considered to improve the effectiveness of group decision making because all the members of group are physically present in the meeting, but discussion among the group members is not allowed. In this technique, a problem is presented before the group members to experience the problem, and then following steps are taken. Number 1, each one is asked to write independently all the possible ideas to solve the presented problem that come to their mind about it. Number 2, thereafter each member has to present their idea to the group. Number 3, further the members are asked to add new ideas to the list on the basis of the ideas presented by others. Number 4, once all possible ideas have surfaced and been recorded, the members may be allowed to suggest a possible solution and comment on the ideas with their relative merits and demerits. Number 5, after this, the members privately vote on an idea and assign a particular rank to it on the basis of priority of the alternative solution. Lastly, the ideas getting the highest aggregate ranking are selected as the solution of the problem. Fourth, fishbowl technique. It is a technique of role rotation in which a group of experts is formed who sit around the table, and the members of the group have opportunities to express their viewpoints as a member as well as leaders in each round of discussion, which is more structured and direct in nature. First, the central place is occupied by a leader who expresses his opinion on the problem with some solution for it. The members are allowed to ask questions and clarification of the problem. Members present in the meeting put their point of view one by one on leader's opinion. Once his viewpoint is discussed fully and understood, the leader gives up his chair to another member who now becomes the leader. Number 2, again new second leader gives his viewpoint in the light of the views expressed by the first leader. The members can ask questions based on the new leader's ideas, which must stem from the first round of discussion. This cycle of discussion continues till all the members have done their turn as the group leader. At the end, all the viewpoints and ideas are taken stock of and further discussed collectively to arrive at a suitable solution. Following table contains some pros and cons of individual and group decision making. Individual decision making. Pros: typically faster than group decision making. Best individual in a group usually outperforms the group. Number 3, accountability is easier to determine. Cons of individual decision making: fewer ideas. Identifying the best individual can be challenging. Lastly, possible to put off making decisions if left alone to do it. Group decision making. Pros: diversity of ideas and can piggyback on others' ideas. Number 2, greater commitment to ideas. Lastly, interaction can be fun and serves as the team building task. Group decision making cons takes longer time. Group dynamics such as groupthink can occur. Social loafing harder to identify responsibility for decisions. 9.4 Process of decision making. Decision making process is concerned with the developing a consensus that suits to solving a problem. The steps in decision making have been identified by various authors has been summarized as follows. The rational choice paradigm assumes that decision makers follow a systematic process which is discussed below. Step 1. Identify the problem. The first step of decision making begins with the identification of the problem, which is a challenging task. The problem may define as the discrepancy between the current and the desired situation, that is, the gap between what is and what ought to be. The efficiency of decision making depends upon definition of the problem. Suppose the management identified the problem that sales data is not readily available for evaluating whether sale target is achieved or not. It is found that sales representative who works in the field do not have digital mode of recording data. Further, it is noticed that sales representatives send a requisition for laptops which was not entertained by the department. Step 2. Identify decision criteria. Criteria that define what's relevant to solving an identified problem. The relevant decision criteria is regards to the purchase of a laptop may be such as price, display, quality, and memory that will help guide the final decision that can be depicted as memory and storage, battery life, warranty, display quality, price, carrying weight. Step 3. Allocating weight to the criteria. A simple way to assign weights is to give the most important criteria a weight of 10 and then assign weights to the rest using the standard, such as, for example, features, memory and storage, desktop weight is 10. For CPU, it's 8, battery life 6, warranty 2, display quality 3, carrying weight 0, price 1. Step 4. Develop alternatives. At this stage, the decision maker requires to list viable alternatives using creative thinking and innovativeness that could resolve the problem. Developing alternatives need to exercise cognitive flexibility. Step 5. Analyze the alternatives. Once alternatives have been identified, a decision maker must evaluate each alternative with pros and cons in the light of the solution of the problems by giving due considerations to risk involved, time consumed, efficiency of the alternative, and resource position along with ethical and moral value. For this, the management can take the help of some experts in regards to viable, scalable, and worthy of investment. Step 6. Selecting the best alternative. This step is concerned with choosing the best alternative or the one that generates the highest scores in solving the problem, which is cost effectiveness and produce synergy effect. Selecting the best alternative does not mean that the rest of the alternatives are worthless. Other alternatives are ranked as plan B, C, and so on. Step 7. Implementation of decision. Decisions are implemented to achieve the desired outcome. It involves a series of actions and utilization of resources. It must be noted that the lower level managers who have to implement a decision must participate in the process because they will help to reevaluate. Before implementing a decision, necessary structural, administrative, and logical arrangements are made. Last step, reviewing decisions. The last step in the decision-making process involves reviewing the outcome with regards to the resolved problems. we should assess to what extent objectives are achieved. If the review shows that the problem still exists, then the manager needs to assess what went wrong. 9.5 Decision making models. There are following popular models of decision making. Number 1, rational decision making model. Rational decision making models. This model is also known as normative model. This model assumes that a man is a rational human being who will apply quantitative techniques for decision making to make precise and accurate decisions. While making decision, manager tries to become as much rational as possible. This is idealistic, rational, and prescriptive in nature. This approach implies the use of scientific and logical methods. The feature of this model is as follows. Being a rational man model, this approach is scientific, logical, and full of reasoning. Number 2, it calls for a scientific attitude on the part of managers backed by empirical verification. Number 3, under this model, managers should not allow his emotions, biases to interfere with decision making. Lastly, the managers must have clarity of action by which defined goals can be achieved. Fifth, this model also assumes that the manager have the ability to apply the criteria to analyze the collected information, develop alternatives, and evaluate alternatives in the context of the defined goals. Sixth, every information is fully known and has no time or cost constraints. Lastly, the manager must have a desire to optimize, maximize benefits by selecting the best course of action. Second model is bounded rationality model. This model is also known as behavioral model or administrative man model. In real life situation, man cannot be always fully rational in his approach to make decisions to solve all types of problems. This is the basis of developing behavioral approach of decision making. This model is more pragmatic as it considers several factors that affect real life decision making in practice. Herbert A. Simon propounded the theory bounded rationality, which states that the norm of rationality is bounded by information limitations or inadequacy of information which deviates from the rationality to solve the problems. The major limitations that bound the managers are as follows. Number 1, uncertainties of environment. The future environment is full of complexities and uncertainties that cannot be predicted with the high degree of accuracy. Therefore, managers have to accommodate their choice accordingly. Number 2, conflicting objectives. Generally, organizations set multiple objectives such as primary objective and secondary objectives to serve the interest of organization as well as to meet out social responsibility that may be conflicting to each other. Third, time constraints. The concept of rationality is also bounded by time constraints because it is time consuming to process the whole steps involved in decision making and the nature of complexity of problems. Lastly, organizational constraints. The philosophy of the organization, power structure, multiplicity of goals, existence of informal groups, and set of organizational plans for which managers may be bounded to make decisions which are more practicable and feasible even by defying the norms of rationality. Third model is intuitive decision model. When managers reach at a decision without conscious reasoning, it is called intuitive decision. This is one of the most commonly used models for decision making. As per Burke and Miller 1999 survey, 89% of the managers sometimes used intuitive decisions and 59% used often. Intuitive decisions are not based on gut feelings, These are backed by experience and so not completely baseless. 9.6 Decision Making and Ethics. Ethics generally refer as the set of moral ideology shaped by social norms, cultural practices, and religious influences that guide a human's behavior about do's and don'ts. In decision making, only economic implications is not involved, but their value and ethical dimensions are found to be equally important. The ethical behavior of a decision maker plays an important role in those managerial decisions that directly involve the interests and objectives of society, such as policies regarding recruitment, selections, dismissal, wages, and salary, etc. For example, a decision to switch over to a new technology should be made by taking into account not only by economic implication but also ethical ones, which require a high degree of honesty and integrity and depends on individual personality and organizational environment. An individual or group can use the following three criteria to make such decision. Number 1, utilitarian criteria. Under this criteria, managers evaluate the decisions and actions on the basis of their consequences. While taking a decision, they ensure that it will produce the greatest good for the large number of people. Number 2, criteria of right. This criteria holds that all people have fundamental rights provided in the Constitution of India, particularly the right to property, freedom of expression, knowledge, privacy, etc. It protects individuals from injury but hinders productivity and efficiency. So, decision makers should respect and protect these rights. Lastly, criteria of justice. It is said that justice delayed is justice denied. It urges upon decision maker to be fair, impartial, and equitable with all classes of people, especially less powerful and unrepresented group of people, while making decisions which ensure equitable distribution of costs and benefits among parties involved in it. James Weber suggested the following guidelines to add an ethical dimension to decision making. Number 1, by formulating and implementing an appropriate policy and code of ethics. Number 2, by using a formal committee to ensure that a code of ethics is observed by the employees. Number 3, by including techniques of ethical and moral values in training and development programs. Whereas Saul Gelman suggested the following guidelines to encourage the use of ethical value in decision making. Number 1, provide clear guidelines for ethical behavior. Number 2, teach ethical guidelines and their importance. Number 3, in gray areas where there are questions about the ethics of an action, refrain from it. Number 4, set up auditing agency that checks on illegal and unethical deeds. Number 5, conduct frequent and unpredictable audits. Number 6, punish trespassers in a meaningful way and make it public so that it may deter others. Lastly, emphasize regularly that loyalty to the organization does not exercise improper behavior or actions. 9.7 Summary. Decision making is an important managerial activity. Every manager has to make decisions to solve problems and handle situations so that tasks could be performed effectively by others. Decision making is not only a part of planning but is an integral part of management process. Decisions are not made either by manager at individual level or by using the authority dedicated to them. Such decisions are known as individual decisions. As against this, some decisions are made by two or more managers or group of individuals who may be working in similar positions and may be in the relationship of superior and subordinate. These decisions are known as group decisions. that are considered to be more qualitative and effective. The process of decision making involves many stages related to non programmed decisions, but for programmed decisions, certain prescribed procedure rules are to be used backed by managerial experience and creativity. Strategic decisions are made by upper level managers, whereas operational decisions are made by lower level managers. In order to understand the decision making behavior of the manager, two important models such as rational model and behavioral model can be used. Of late, in most modern organizations, the techniques of group decision making models such as brainstorming, Delphi technique, nominal technique, and fishbowl techniques are used. Modern organization gives due consideration to ethical value in decision making, for which a code of conduct is framed, followed by managers. Thanks for listening.